Meeting will now come to order. Let's see here. First, can we have the roll call?
We actually have 3 administrative duties this evening. First, we'll start with the roll call. James Miller, absent. Thomas Silvera.
Here.
Eric Curtin.
Here.
Judith Rosenthal, absent. Rick Lombardi.
Present.
Stephen Hutler.
Here.
Thomas Heaney, here. Unless otherwise indicated, for this evening, the voting members are going to be Silvera, Curtin, Lombardi, and Hutler, and myself. The next order of business is to adopt the zoning board meeting minutes from October 26th and a special meeting on November 9th.
Motion accept.
We have a motion by Rick
I'll second.
and a second by Eric. All in-
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, adopted.
And then the next order of business?
Well, we've already got the approval of the zoning board meetings,
It's the calendar.
the calendar for next year.
Yep.
So that's all set. And then it'll be the zoning board of review continued petitions for May 25th.
Okay, so Atlantic Beach Suites, the second LLC owner, and this is at 42 through 44 and 56 Wave Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, David Martland. At the last meeting, this had been continued to the regular meeting of January, so I think it's,
So January 25th, 2022.
that's correct.
Okay. We did that last meeting, is that what you said? No.
That's correct, yes.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, so then that's going to, all right.
Petition of Telly Amarant and Elizabeth Amarant owners at 163 Aquinic Avenue. That's ready. It's ready, okay. And that's for both a special use and a variance. Petition of Sens Corporation owner, 0 West Main Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I know that Jay Lynch is handling that matter. I know that he's not here this evening. I do represent the property owner, and I believe that Mr. Lynch had requested that this be continued to the January meeting as well at the last regular meeting of the board.
So this will be continued to
January 25th.
January 25th.
Right.
And again, that's for both a variance and a special use.
Right.
Next one is Benjamin J. Contessa, owner, 183 Walcott Avenue.
We have a correspondence in there that he requested to be continued to the February 22nd meeting.
Okay, so February 22nd.
Okay, we'll continue to February 22nd, yep.
And again, that's for both a special use and a variance.
Correct.
Right.
Petition of Newport National Real Estate LLC owners, and this is at 425 Mitchell's Lane.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, David Martland, on behalf of Newport National. I know that Mr. Silva is handling this matter. It is still in development plan review. I know that there is a technical review scheduled for next week, I believe. And if they get through the technical review, then they would be on the planning board for the following week. So I'd request that this be continued to the January meeting of the board.
Okay, so Newport National will go to the January 22nd meeting.
Thank you.
Next petition is of Frank and Eleanor.
Frank and Eleanor Fenchner, owners, and Don Kopsak, applicant. And this real estate is located at 576 Tuckerman Avenue.
There is a correspondence in your folder with them requesting several dates due to the fact that they missed the last meeting and they're out of the country. Whatever the board's pleasure is on, if to continue them to the next available meeting, scheduled meeting, or,
I think we should put them on the January 22nd meeting and then go from there.
So we'll move this to the January 25th meeting, okay?
Yeah, 25th, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
January 25th, yes.
Okay, and then the petition of Seamus Kirby, owner, and this is at 24 Walcott Avenue.
again, correspondence in your folder requesting to be continued to the December 28th meeting, which is your pleasure. If we're not having that, it would be the next scheduled meeting.
Right, with the 25th of January. Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Can I be heard?
Yep, yes?
These continuances, continuance after continuance after continuance after continuance. I want to know from the solicitor if we can limit the number of continuances so we can get some business done with this board.
Yeah, I can speak to that. The solicitor's office is in the process of drafting proposed rules of procedure for the board's consideration. So the first draft of that is complete now, and it's going through revisions. And the plan, and one of those rules of procedure is to, after 6 months, I believe, automatically take things off of the calendar.
It's pretty obvious what's happening with some of these. There are people playing the system. There are people who are objecting to their, to their petitions, and they think that this stuff is going to go away. And it's not going to go away. Sooner or later, this is, all I keep hearing from people who come up to us in public and talk to us about how onerous the system is, and it moves at a snail's pace. And at some point, we need to make this system work, and we need to make it move so that we can get some business done in this community. And I heard this going way back when I was on the council for 6 years. So this is nothing new. And I would suggest that the solicitor get that to us as soon as possible. Thank you.
There's one more continuance from the special meeting on November 9th, and that's petition of Stephen M. Sullivan, owner, 62 Third Beach Road.
62 Third Beach Road wants to withdraw without prejudice. They no longer want to have this petition entertained.
Okay, could I have a motion to withdraw without prejudice?
I'll make a motion to withdraw without prejudice.
Second.
Motion made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, withdrawn without prejudice. Okay. Then we have a new petition?
And then the one new petition, we usually just wait to read that in once we get to it.
Okay, are they, is the new petition ready to go?
Yes, that is right.
Ready to go, okay. All right. I think we should do the new petition first, and then we'll go on with the other petition.
Petition of Jeff Lipshires, owner and CCE Development applicant, by their attorney, David P. Martland, Esquire, for a variance from sections 603 to extend a restaurant entry deck and ADA ramp to provide access to main restaurant entrance. Said real estate is located at 499 East Main Road and further identified as Lot 27 on Tax Assessor's Plat 113.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. David Martland on behalf of Jeff Lipshires and CCE Development. This is the old Grange building that is the subject of this application, located at 499 East Main Road. Mr. Lipshires has purchased the property from the Plums. He's proposing to undertake certain renovations with the property. He's going to locate his construction management business to the property. He would be located in the front portion of the building. So he's going to essentially split the building in half. The rear portion will continue to be a restaurant, and he's working and discussing with a potential tenant now who would occupy that space. In connection with those improvements, there's presently a handicap entrance on I guess it would be on the south side of the building. There's a ramp. What they would like to do is relocate that ADA compliant ramp to the north side so that it will run up along that north side. It's the east main road side of the building. Would have sort of an expanded deck on which to be able to land on there, and that would then become the main entrance for the restaurant for both for all patrons. Would be in that location. So presently there's an entrance on that side for folks that don't need use of the ramp where there are stairs, but this would now provide the ADA entrance to be in that same location. The request for the variance is because the building is already located within the setback there, so that necessitates the requested variance relief. These plans have been reviewed and approved through the development plan review process by the technical review committee and the planning board. Unfortunately, my client is out of town this evening, so I'm just simply relying upon the plans that are of record, show the location of the building, and that, it's really the least relief necessary associated with providing for that ADA compliant entrance for where the restaurant will be located. There is an abutting property to the west, which is the hotel. They're aware of the request for the variance, and they don't have any objection to it.
Is there a reason why the proposed additional ADA compliant staircase couldn't be moved further to the east along the north side so it wouldn't require the setback?
I think because of the length of the ramp required for that, that may impact the going to that parking area somewhat, so you have to maintain a certain slope for the ramp.
Yep.
Over that course.
Over the run.
And it's, the entrance is it's fairly high off the ground.
Right.
It's a good 5 feet, so that's why it's such a
Right, so
long
it's gotta be,
ramp.
I think it's an inch to the foot is what I think that's what
Oh, is that what?
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
If I remember right, that's what it is. So that means if it's 5 feet, it's 60 feet long it's gonna be.
Right,
That's a long, that's a long ramp,
long ramp.
and so that's understandable.
And relocating the ramp to the north side, you said that it aligns better with the restaurant part use of that building, is that?
Yeah, so that is the main entrance for the restaurant. There is an existing staircase there, and that's so going to be the main entrance. This would allow for everyone to enter in the main entrance, in that one area, as opposed to having, the ADA ramp on the backside of the building, which, I think it should all be located
Well, it makes them,
in the same spot and
Yeah.
everyone treated in the same fashion.
So is the size of the restaurant, it's getting smaller?
It is getting smaller, so it's going to have half the floor space in there.
Okay. So I guess my question is, so from a parking perspective, the added, you're still gonna have offices in the basement too?
That's correct.
Okay, so separate, so do you have the parking requirements for the restaurant going down because the amount of patrons that are gonna come to the restaurant?
So there is an offset there where there's, because of that smaller space, the restaurant count goes down, the office count goes up.
Okay.
But all of the required off-street parking is provided for.
Okay.
And that's the only thing you need is just for the ADA ramp is the variance for that, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, there are also dormers that are going on the building as well, but those are within the setbacks. We're able to move those to make sure that no variances were needed for those. But we went through the technical review and design review with the planning board.
Anybody, any board members have any more questions? I'll open it up to the public.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor or against the petition? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And can I entertain a motion?
Motion to accept. Approve, motion to approve.
I have
I'll
a motion
second.
to approve. Motion made in second. Any discussion? Well, I'm gonna vote in favor. I believe the relief is reasonable, and it's something that makes it more inclusive for the handicapped people to come into the same entrance. I'm gonna vote in favor of it. It's not a major setback variance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Granted 5-0. Okay. So I guess the only other petition we have is
Amaret?
Amarant, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Can you read that one?
This is a petition is both for a variance and a special use, so I'll read both of them in. Petition of Telly Amarant and Elizabeth Amarant owners by their attorney Christopher J. Bean Esquire for a variance from sections 903 and 603 to tear down the existing commercial structure and construct a two-family residence resulting in a 26.9% lot coverage where 25% is allowed. A front yard setback of 16 feet where 25 feet is required. On a lot with an area of 7,996 square feet when a minimum of 15,000 square feet is required. And a frontage of 74 feet, 74.99 feet where a maximum of 120 feet is required. Said real estate is located at 163 Aquidneck Avenue and further identified as Lot 14 on Tax Assessor's Plat 115 Southeast. Then also the special use petition of Telly Amarant and Elizabeth Amarant owners by their attorney Christopher J. Bean Esquire for a special use permit from sections 902, 602, and 805 to allow the two-family residential use pursuant to section 602 and 805 for the two-family on a lot that does not meet the standards of section 603. Said real estate is located at 163 Aquidneck Avenue and further identified as Lot 14 on Tax Assessor's Plat 115 Southeast.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Chris Bean here representing Telly and Lisa Amarant. who are the owners of the property at 163 Aquidneck Avenue. And I think many of you are familiar with that property. It's the property on Aquidneck Avenue with the steel, unattractive building on it. It's in the R10A zone, but it's been used for commercial purposes for decades now, which included the old Dannon accounting offices, and also recently a retail office by way of a use variance was granted by this board approximately within the last 10 years or so. It is a lot that kind of transitions the residential district into the limited business district down on Aquidneck Avenue. And this lot is non-conforming the use in the lot is non-conforming in many aspects, starting off with the use. The lot coverage at present is 32.4%. It's non-conforming as to both side yard setbacks and also the front yard setback, and it has a continuous driveway in the front. It is conforming to the rear yard setback. As the reading of the petition states, my client's plans are to tear down the existing building, and these plans will make the property significantly more conforming to the use and dimensional regulations of the district. The use, two-family use that they propose is allowed by a special use permit. Their plans will have the property conforming to both side yard setbacks. In fact, we are withdrawing the request for the variance for lot coverage. The new plans, revised plans we submitted, which basically eliminates some overhangs, roof overhangs in the front, reduces the lot coverage down to 25%, so we no longer need that lot coverage variance. We were looking for 26.9%. The front yard setback will be more conforming, even though we are looking for a variance for that. And you'll see from the testimony, there will be better controlled ingress and egress out of the property. So we will need the special use permit for the two-family use, a variance to the lot area, because it's a lot of only 7,996 square feet. It's a lot of record. It's a lot of record existing for, I didn't even look to see when it was first created, but it appears to be nearly 100 years old. So the only other points I want to make at this point before I call my witnesses is we did have communications with the objectors, neighbors represented by Attorney Allison Quay, who's here. And we tried to address their concerns. One of the concerns was that the building on the property is big, our proposed building. However, the architect will point out that you could build a single-family residence on that lot, which is even bigger than what we're proposing for the two-family by right. The other things, in terms of the use, my clients are going to rent the property. However, I just want to point out, my clients will point out when they testify, Lisa Amaranth, is that they're fully entrenched in that area. They own a number of properties down there. They own 2 businesses down there and 2 other residential properties. So they're down there 7 days a week for extended hours, and they're not going to allow any kind of nuisance to happen from this property. They also only live a mile or so up the street. So I have 3 witnesses, which include Lisa Amaranth, the architect, Dan Herkenrother, and also Mr. Hull. So with your permission, Mr. Chair, I would call Lisa Amaranth.
Raise your right hand. Swear the testimony before the board is the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, can you speak into the microphone, please?
Yes.
No, that's not the microphone, it's the other one.
The other one.
That's okay, that's okay.
My name is Elizabeth Amaranth, 10 Wedgewood Drive in Middletown, Rhode Island.
All right, Lisa, you are obviously the owner of 163 Quinnick Avenue in Middletown, is that right?
That is correct.
And that property is located in the R10A residential district? is that
Yes, that is correct.
right? And just explain to the court, excuse me, the board, I'm sorry, what type of building is on that at this?
It's an aluminum one-story building.
And it's a commercial building?
It's a commercial building, yes.
What type of condition is it in?
It's dilapidated,
And unattractive? is that
unattractive.
correct? Now, presently, the use there, while it had some professional office use, it right now is allowed for general merchandise retailing activity.
That is correct, yes.
Now, it's not conforming by use, but we've also, I did not tell the board the basic percentages, where there's not conformity in terms of the dimensional. So the lot coverage is 32.4% now, is that correct?
Right now, yes, it is.
And the front yard setback is not conforming at 14 feet 3 inches, is that right?
That is correct.
And the south side yard setback is 10 feet and 20 is
Yes.
required. And the north side is 12 feet, 1/2 inches, and 20 feet is.
It's required, yes.
Now, the rear lot line is conforming, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, can you tell the board your plans for the building if the relief is granted?
Well, we bought that, I like to know, tell you that the reason we bought that building was because it needed upgrade. It's an eyesore in the neighborhood. So we decided instead of doing a business, we could rent it for retail or open up another business for ourselves. We decided it wasn't a good idea. We'd rather build a two-family home and rent it. It will be, we're always next door. We own 2 other properties right next door, 8 Escape and 26 Newport Avenue. We, for the last 20 years, we have done Airbnb on both houses, single-family homes, and also 9-month rentals, mostly college students. So our experience with that has been very good because we were right next door. We've never had any issues all those years. There's no parking on the streets, there's no noise, we never had any complaints. So we'd like to continue that.
Okay, let me just, so, you are gonna tear down the
Yes.
existing, let me finish, she's gotta take down your answer. So, you are gonna tear down the existing steel building?
Yes,
And you're gonna look into construct a 2-family residence?
correct.
And you understand you need a special use permit for that?
Yes, I do.
Now, the plans that we submitted, the revised ones, it will be conforming to lot coverage? of
Yes.
25%?
25%, yes.
And it will be conforming as to the both side yard setbacks, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the front yard will be more conforming, it will be now 16 feet instead of the 14 and a
Yes.
half. Now, the lot that you have right now is only 7,996 square feet, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, how does that compare to the existing lots in the neighborhood in terms of lot size?
I believe most of the other lots are smaller than that particular lot. I think there's one that's bigger than our lot.
Okay. So, you had Dan Perkenrother prepare the plans?
Yes. Yes.
And what type of building did you try to design?
Since we've got a lot of compliments for the sea breezing, the look of the sea breezing, we decided we will do, we'll follow that design with Dan and give the town what they're actually looking for.
Okay. Now, in terms of there were certain things the neighbors were concerned about, which included the lighting, the potential lighting, since it was a residential property. Now, you've had discussions with your architect
Yes.
about that,
Yes,
and you've agreed, and what you'll do is that you'll do the commercial lighting, which is I believe it's the reference to dark sky compliant lighting, is that
yes,
correct?
yes.
So the lighting will be
Yes,
directed down,
that's correct.
and you're willing to do that, is
Yes.
that correct?
That's what it was our plan from the
Alright.
beginning.
Now, there were also certain concerns about balconies or decks that could be accessed from the units facing the neighbors to the north or to the east, is that correct?
There were concerns, but the new design has no decks facing to the north.
Okay, so there's no decks or balconies which will face either to your neighbors to the north or to the east?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, there also, you do have plans to do some privacy screening, is that right?
Yes,
Can you just
I,
describe,
yes.
can you describe what your plans are to the board?
Yes, we decided, I actually spoke to my architect, and we've got a couple of names from him. It will be trees, they call them privacy trees, and they go up to 30, 40 feet to, for privacy for, along the north side of the lot.
And how
Okay,
about the east?
Chris, you got to speak into the microphone too, because
They can't hear
they
you.
can't hear you, okay?
Yes.
That's the, I just,
I'm sorry.
okay, that's all right.
For
I'm
you.
just telling you, you have to do it. You don't have a portable one, do you?
Yes, we do. There is a portable one on the stand there that you just gotta push the button on.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna put my glasses on.
That's okay. No problem.
What's the, oh, you're right here? I don't see the button that would put it on yet. Take a look at it. There's one that says mute on it.
I was rocking up and down here a little while back.
You can use it.
Assistance.
There's standby.
Chuck? What?
Is the lights on?
I got it on.
Oh, we gotta keep reaching into each other.
Check 1, 2.
There we go.
There you go.
Nice.
So you get down, and before work, I usually come down and do a couple of skits.
I've never known anybody not to hear you, Chris. That's just unusual.
That's true, but I got a little hoarse in my voice right now. I was surprised too.
There you go. That's perfect.
We were discussing the trees, the privacy screening and that, and I believe I left off asking you about the east side. What are your plans for the east side, which is the back of the property?
The back of the property, yes.
You-
All the back of the property, we're going to plant those trees all the way across.
Okay, and also to the north?
To the north,
Okay.
yes.
Now, you previously had testified that you own 2 other residential properties in the area, and you described them, I believe. What were the addresses again?
The 5-bedroom house is on 8 Seascape Avenue, and the 3-bedroom house is on 26 Newport Avenue.
And you presently rent those out?
I do,
And you had mentioned that you rent them out for 9-month periods to students?
correct.
And those students are from where?
Salve,
And do they also walk college if it's available?
if it's available, yes. We prefer War College, but whatever we can get, obviously.
Okay. Okay, so the other one is 26 Newport Avenue.
Correct.
All right. And if you, your plans are to rent out this property, is that correct?
That is correct.
And would you follow that same rental plans?
That's what we're planning.
9-month, and then for the summer, what would you do with the property?
We have a real estate agent that works with us, Airbnb and VRBO, that we advertise.
Okay, so,
And we do short-term rental. The minimum stay is 3 days.
okay, so what you're gonna do with what you're doing with your 2 residential properties now, and you're also gonna do with this property, which is 9-month rentals to students, and then 3-month short-term rentals,
That is correct.
and you use platforms such as Airbnb, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And for the 9-month, you use a real
Real
estate
estate
agent?
agent, yes,
Okay. Now, you also own the Seabreeze Inn next door,
that is correct.
and you're also a co-owner of the Quidnick Pizza?
Yes.
Now, there were some concerns expressed that this somehow could be used as part of the Seabreeze Inn, this property next door. Will that be the case?
Absolutely not. I have no intention of doing nightly rental and the single nights at the
Okay. All right, so,
property.
well, let's go in, so the 3 residential properties, which would include the subject property, you would, you use a real estate agent for the 9 months, and you use a platform such as Airbnb for the short-term rentals,
And VRBO,
yeah, with a 3 night minimum, is that correct?
that is correct.
Now, how do you market the Seabreeze Inn?
Seabreeze Inn is a hotel on Booking.com, Expedia, TripAdvisor, and we have, it has its own website, and that's how we advertise.
Okay, so it's different from all the other.
Correct.
Now, as I suggested to the board in my opening remarks, is you're down in, of course, in this area often, is that correct?
We are 7 days a week, my husband and I.
Okay, and is that working at the Seabreeze Inn?
Yes.
And also at times at the Quidnick Pizza?
We stop in for inspections once
Okay.
in a while. We are at the Seabreeze Inn 24/7.
Okay, so you're down there and you only live a mile or so down?
Yes.
Now, how many hours do you spend down there during the day?
I know a week I spend 120 hours.
Well. Now, we mentioned that the plans now will call there's a continuous driveway in the front of the building, is that correct?
Right now, yes.
And cars tend to back out onto Aquinic Avenue? That will be alleviated, is that correct?
That is correct.
So there's going to be an ingress and egress out,
Yes.
so the traffic will be circulated around the building. So no more backing out.
No,
And there's 8 parking spaces, is that correct?
in the back, yes.
Okay, I have nothing further at this time.
Good evening, council. If I may ask some questions of Ms. Amarant?
Yeah, let me just swear you in, so that way there, if you give any testimony, it'll be all right. Is that okay? Raise,
I'm sure, I'm an attorney, though. I won't be giving
oh,
testimony. I'll
I'm
just be
sorry.
asking
Okay, I
questions.
didn't know that.
I'm here,
apologize.
Allison Quay, representing Michael Kastner and Renee Bissell.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ms.
Good
Amarant.
evening.
So, these apartments, they'll be fully furnished?
Could I just ask that you stand this way? She's facing back toward you, so she's not looking at me. Come up this way a bit,
Oh, sure.
just so that she's like, I mean, we don't have to.
These apartments will be fully furnished?
Yes, just like my other ones, yes.
Okay.
My other two houses are fully furnished.
And will you provide linens?
Yes,
And there'll be house cleaning?
absolutely.
And the house cleaning will be provided by same employees at the Seabreeze Inn?
No, I have a company that comes in and cleans and changes the sheets. I don't get involved with that.
And you stated that you will use this as short-term rentals during the summer
Correct.
and longer short-term rentals during the school season.
Correct.
And that you haven't had any issues with your other
Not
rentals?
that I know of, there's no reports, no complaints,
No police reports that you
no
were aware
police
of?
reports
No
that I
police
know.
calls?
Correct. 20 years I've been doing it.
Would it surprise you to
20
learn that some of your neighbors have called the police? on your other?
They did. I will not be surprised, but the police did not contact me, so I have no idea.
And you suggest that your advertisement for the Seabreeze Inn and your rentals are separate, right?
They are.
Okay. So you advertise one of them on VRBO, correct?
Yes.
And you
Both of them.
advertise it as the cottage at Seabreeze, right?
Yes. Seabreeze Cottage, yes.
And also in that advertisement, you direct people to call the Seabreeze Inn if they
If-
have questions or concerns.
My phone, I have one line, 24 hours. All of my phone calls come to my cell phone, whether they call the Seabreeze Inn or my private line, it's the same. I'm one-person operation.
Excuse me 1 second. In your advertisements, though, you do direct them to call the Seabreeze Inn.
Seabreeze Inn, 849, yes. May I add to that, please? That's where my office is. That's my main line. That's where I can be reached.
In the parking lot that you proposed here, they'll have 8 spaces facing Seascape Avenue, correct?
Yes.
And the parking lot will be open into the Seabreeze Inn, is that correct?
No,
It's going to be closed off.
absolutely.
Just want to make sure, thank you. And you stated before, you have no intention of living there.
If I do, it would be probably in the future, I might.
And you have no intention of renting this home to people with families who will be in the school system, who will be employed in the area, who will be there.
If the opportunity
a
comes,
year or-
it's not, if the opportunity comes for all year-round rental, just like my other two houses, I've done that before also. So if the opportunity comes to have a long-term rental to a family, absolutely.
And would you consider, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm through. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I don't have any further questions of Ms.
Okay. She got more to, she's finished? Okay.
How many bedrooms are going to be in each unit?
The third floor, it's 3 bedrooms, and the other 2 floors is 5 bedroom total. So
So
total for the
13?
building, no, 8 bedrooms total.
8
3 and 5, yes.
Okay.
Three bedrooms, and so it's 8 bedrooms totally?
Yes,
Yeah.
3 bedrooms and the third floor apartment, and the other apartment is 2 floors. The first floor and second floor is 1, and the third floor is 1. So the first and second floor apartment, the bigger apartment, it has 5 bedrooms. The third floor has 3. It's 2 separate apartments. So it's total of 8 bedrooms.
I get nervous putting 8 bedrooms on an undersized lot. I just think that's out of control. That's what I
Well,
think.
the
The size of
size,
the building is one thing, but the amount of bedrooms is a huge difference. 8 bedrooms is a lot for a two-family house. In an undersized lot. I believe you're only 50% of the lot, I mean, not lot coverage, you're 50% of the, how many square feet is on the thing?
Required amount for two families, 15,000. Is that what
Yep.
you're getting at?
And, what do they have for lot coverage, lot area?
7,900.
Yeah, 7,900, so you're a little less than, you're probably 60% of the lot for a two-family dwelling. You're gonna put 8 bedrooms on it? That's huge.
The room
That's
is,
not even close to a normal apartment.
the Seascape house that I owned recently, it's 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. So it's a big house.
So, but it is town water and town sewer, so I mean, by right, she could put an 8-bedroom, single-family house there.
That's
Is that correct?
That is correct,
By right.
By right.
yes.
I'm done with Lisa, so I'll call Mr. Birkenroth.
Okay. Raise your right hand, swear the testimony is the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Dan Herkenrother, that's Herchenroether, and I'm at 36 Aquidneck Avenue, Middletown.
So Dan, you were hired by the Amarants, is that correct?
Yes.
And what were you asked to do?
They wanted me to design a new constructed residential house on the existing lot.
And the challenges you faced in doing this?
It's a tight lot, a pretty small lot, and we're working with a pretty a dilapidated existing structure that no one seems to like too much.
Now, what were you trying to do with, in terms of your design for this residence?
So this is in the in that Aquidneck Avenue, which they're now calling the Atlantic Beach District, and a lot of the new regulations have come out. Now, this isn't a commercial project, so we're not required to meet those standards, but since it's in that district, we were trying to adhere to some of the main standards of that design manual.
And you've reviewed those standards and you're familiar with the same, is that right?
Yes.
And how does your design of it comport with those guidelines?
Sure. So just to compare, the existing building that's there is, I would consider the opposite of what the town would want. The existing building has low sloped roofs, non-traditional siding materials, no breaks in the facade, no glazing or not enough glazing on the north and south facades. The mass of the building is just one large form. There's parking in front of the building. There is no curb cut. There is no landscaping, and cars have to back out onto Aquidneck Avenue. So by removing the existing building, we can comply with these standards. The new build does break the mass into smaller forms. It does provide divided light windows. It does provide steep sloped roofs. It does provide a shingle-style design. We have parking at the rear of the site. Six of our 8 spots are at the rear of the site. There is a reduction of the curb cut and the addition of a public sidewalk, and there is an addition of plantings along the street edge.
So the property also now, as your revised plan show, the design, it is now compliant with the lot coverage requirements at 25%, is that correct?
That is correct.
And also it's compliant with side yard setback requirements, increasing the existing ones of 10 feet and 12.5 feet to the required 20 feet or more. Is that right?
That's correct.
And the rear yard is conforming, is that correct?
Yes,
And the front yard has been, the setback has been increased to 16 feet from 14 feet 3 inches.
yes,
And the, the property, the design, the building complies with the height requirements, is that correct?
yes.
Now, you've already pointed out about the continuous driveway frontage in the back, excuse me, in the front, where cars are backing out to Aquidneck Avenue. And this will now provide parking and a ingress and egress out through the lot, is that correct?
Correct. It's a one-way in and then a one-way out, so it's a big loop.
Now, Lisa did testify and tell the board about the lighting you've agreed to, she's agreed to put in after consultation with you. And that is what type of lighting?
It's called dark sky compliant. It just means we're setting light down and not up for light pollution.
And that's really required only of commercial buildings, but we're willing to do that. Lisa is willing to do that for this residence, is that correct?
Correct, yes. We did the same for the Seabreeze Inn 7 years ago or so.
Now, there are 8 parking spaces on the property, is that correct?
Yes,
And there were concerns, you can verify that there are no balconies or decks or that have access through the units that will face any of the neighbors to the east or to the north, is that right?
yes. There are no decks on the north or east side of the building.
And then you've had discussions with Lisa also about the privacy screening.
That's correct, yes.
And are you going to be involved in that, or have you made referrals?
Yes, we'll work with the landscape contractor to pick and select some kind of arborvitae type greenery.
All right, and it was brought up that there are 8 bedrooms in between the 2 units, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Now, you did review the regulations, and what did you discover in terms of what could be built on the property in terms of a one-family residence?
Sure, yeah. So right now what we have is we have a 3-story structure, and as it gets taller, the building steps in. So the first floor is almost 1,700 square feet, second floor is 1,600 square feet, and the third floor is 1,573. So that's a total of 4,840 square feet of total heatable square footage space in the proposed scheme. If we were to build this new as a single-family residence and just max out, go straight up, we would get a 10-bedroom house, because we only have 1 kitchen, so we'd have could get more bedrooms. It'd be a 10-bedroom house, and it would be a 5,400 square feet of total space compared to the 4,840 we have proposed here.
And that would be by right, is that correct?
That meets all setbacks under the height variance, and it's a single family, yes.
I have nothing further.
You made a point to point out that the plan that you've come up with for the 2-family fits in with what the town is looking for aesthetically. Would that 10-bedroom house that you just described also fit in
No,
that way?
It would not. It would have, the big difference to that would be, it would have unbroken facades, so it would have 3-story high or 2.5-story high
So
straight.
my point is, would that get approved?
Yes, because since we're residential, there's no standards to comply. It's only for commercial. So a single-family residential house doesn't have to go in front of the commercial standards.
You mentioned that there were 8 parking spaces, and the way that you've configured it is there's no one-way entrance, one-way traffic flow, and you're eliminating the current practice of having to back out on Aquidneck Avenue. The 8 spaces there required?
Yeah,
That number?
Yes, for short term, they like to see one space per one bedroom, so we have 8 spaces to match the 8 bedrooms.
Okay.
That space number 8, though, you're not gonna have to back out into the street to get out of that space?
It depends. We could show the 3-point turn. I guess it depends what kind of car you would have. We can also slide that space further over towards the right to get the proper backup. But yes, we want to make sure that no bumper or car would have to come onto Aquidneck Avenue.
It just looked awful close, that's why I was asking.
It does look close, yeah. We have room to go to the right there. That's a good point.
What do you mean by go to the right? I'm sorry, I don't quite
If
understand.
parking space 8, there's
Yeah.
a strip of green between the house. That parking space can move to the right by 5 feet or so, which would give you more space.
Closer to the building, is that what you're saying?
Closer to the building,
Okay,
yes.
that's- Yeah, okay, I just want to
Yeah, we
make
have
sure
room
we're
there.
communicating the same, that's all.
Yes.
That's what I want to make sure. And what's this dark part here? That's the existing? The dark blue, is that the existing?
Yes, I can kind of go over the site plan quickly here. There's, the light blue hatch represents the first floor footprint of the building. The dark blue hatch, I hope yours is in color.
Is
Your
what?
prints are in
It
color,
is.
right? Okay. The dark blue hatch, that represents our roof overhangs, and then our second floor overhangs towards the back. So those two combined is what creates our lot coverage of 1996. And then 2 other things to look at is there's a bigger rectangle. It's a dark border with a diagonal hatching that goes around the outside of that. That shows you the footprint of the existing building. So you can kind of get an idea of how much bigger that first floor footprint is.
So the green is the original building, is that what you're saying? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's not green. It's
The dark black.
Oh, the dark line?
the
Okay.
dark line with
Okay,
like a
the
little
dark line, okay.
cross hatch around the
okay.
edges. That's the existing, yeah.
So the existing building is 10 feet away from the boundary line, is what you're saying?
Yes, 10
Okay.
feet on the south and 12 feet. So it
Right.
occupies, you can't really even drive around that building the way it is
Okay.
right now.
I'm just trying to get this,
Yeah, there's a lot on here,
yeah,
so
there is a lot on this. so
it's
just,
dense, yeah.
You know. Okay. So you're making the building quite a bit smaller, is what you're saying?
That's correct, yes, and we're going to be adding a lot of greenscape. The property now is mostly just asphalt and the building that's there, and now we can have greenery around the north and east side, and then some greenery around the front of the building to help buffer that from Aquidneck Avenue.
So this is serviced by sewer and water, so there's no limit to bedrooms as far as like septic systems and stuff like that?
That's correct, no septic, yes.
Yes, I just was assuming that. I was assuming that, but I wanted to be sure.
Correct, yes.
I'm all set. Allison, do you? My last witness is Mr. Hull.
Raise your right hand, swear the testimony for the board is the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name and address for the record, please.
James Houle, Houle, 198 Union Street, Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Hull has testified.
He has testified, and we will accept him as a professional witness.
Mr. Hull, Mr. Hull, you've been retained by the petitioners to provide testimony in this matter in support of their petition for relief.
Yes.
And what is your understanding of what they're looking for in terms of relief?
Okay, so when I originally prepared my report, which was in September, I was using the same figures that are on the petition, which is that the Amarants were looking for a 26.9% lot coverage, where 25% was allowed, and a 16-foot front setback. Now, we've consulted with the Amarants quite a bit, and we had a lot of conversations, and this is the reduction that is being presented tonight to a 25% lot coverage is actually the second reduction that we've had on the building. So we're very aware of exactly where the building sits on the site and the use of the building. So we're looking, the Amarants, this is an R10A zone. It's required that you have a special use permit for a two-family house. The lot only contains 7,996 square feet. 15,000 square feet are required by the zoning code for a two-family use in an R10 zone. There is the frontage. They're requesting a variance for the frontage, which is substandard, and they are requiring or requesting a dimensional setback, front setback, which is a reduction of what is there now and what is actually, again, what was on the original petition. So they have a series of variances. They no longer care, again, they are no longer concerned about the lot coverage, which is now conforming, and the dimensional setbacks are conforming on both the north and south and east sides of the property, which are the sides and the rear of the property. So my analysis really looked at the standards for both the special permit, special use permit for the use of the two-family, and for all the requirements of the variance per the code. I've included, you have a copy of my report, I believe, in your file. As I said, it was done in September. I've addressed each of those standards. I won't belabor them here, but we are looking, when it comes to the special use permit, one of the things that jumps out at me is that this will not result in a significant diminution of property values in the neighborhood. I honestly believe this will be a very positive impact to neighborhood property values. You have brand new construction that's taken the place of a one-story, fairly unattractive steel, older commercial building that really is sort of inharmonious with the rest of the neighborhood. I'll discuss later the stretch that I looked at, but coming down from Reservoir to the inn that the Amarants run on Aquidneck, that the uses are all residential, and this is much more in conformance with the uses that are on the property. It's not going to create a nuisance. It's very compatible with the comp plan. We need to have more housing. Anytime you add housing units, you free up housing units somewhere else in town. This is clearly an area that is dominated by the short-term rental business. So there's no question that adding units here will free up other units in the rest of town.
Can I stop you just there when you address the nuisance issue? Can you specifically address the short-term rental use that would occur in the summer as opposed for 9 months during the rest of the year?
Yes.
In terms of any nuisance that could result?
Yes, we had, this year, my office did the short-term safety rental inspections for the town of Middletown. Mr. Costa will tell you that we did hundreds of inspections. People in the office did hundreds, including myself. And we were really, it was an incredible learning experience because we got to really see what the detrimental properties were, or the properties that really created the biggest nuisances. And typically what we found was large, single-family, detached houses that are used for rental created more of a problem than the units that were in multi-unit buildings. There seems to be sort of a policing, the natural policing that goes on with 2 units in a property, so that they feel less inclined to disturb, shall we say, the people. But when you have a detached single-family house, what ends up happening is they tend to have groups of singles that create a lot of problems. And we heard that continuously from neighbors when we were going out doing the safety inspections, that it was always the larger single-family houses that created the problems rather than units that were being rented in a multifamily. You know, Mr. Severa brought up the number of bedrooms. When I first looked at this plan, I had exactly the same reaction. But when you really look at it in terms of contrasting, you know, I looked at a couple of things. One of the things that I will discuss, or what, it doesn't really matter, I may as well talk about it now. When we're looking at the neighborhood, I noticed that of the 10 lots that I did look at that were coming down Aquidneck Avenue, and one that is directly abutting the subject property on Seascape, that there were 4 other multifamily or two plus dwelling unit buildings. And what I thought was very interesting was that, in fact, most of those 2-family houses, all but one, all of the multifamily houses, had actually greater density than what this property will have with the 2 units. And there were already existing 2-unit properties. But I think that what is really important about it is that because there are the 2 units in the bedrooms are all contained in 2 separate units, that the natural tendency is not going to have that same sort of craziness that you would expect to have in a detached single-family house. And it is very much in conformance with the uses that are in the area.
All right, and then you did address under the special use permit criteria and standards, whether it was compatible with the comp plan, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really fits a lot of the housing goals. We need, one of the things that was really apparent in what's gone on in the last year and a half in the real estate market overall is that we really need more dwelling units on the island. Every single town is short. You know, one of the, you know, it's particularly, I notice it more in Newport, but this is a very densely developed area, and we really need to have more housing in Middletown.
And you don't see it being detrimental or substantially or permanently injuring the appropriate use of the property in the surrounding areas?
No, not at all. And I don't see it creating any hazardous conditions.
Mr. Hull, Chris, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
So I've read your report over a couple of times, Mr. Hull, and honestly, there's point for point, I don't have a big issue. But I really have an issue with people coming in front of us and stretching out the interpretation of the comprehensive plan. And this is a stretch, and I'm going to go over it point by point.
Okay.
And you make note of, before I do that, you make note of the housing issue in Middletown and on the Aquidneck Island in general, and the lack of long-term rentals and the like. And I agree. I totally agree that we don't have enough rental units. You know, in Middletown is about 47% rental units. if you look at the data, I think I'm about, that's in that ballpark. I could be off a little bit here or there. But for every short-term rental we put out there, for every house that's brought down and taken into, moved to a short-term rental, you lose a long-term rental. And this is where I'm going to cite some issues with the comp plan, and I really think you're stretching it. If not, it doesn't fit. This doesn't fit. Mr. Zamarat said that it's going to be a 9-month rental and 3 months in the summertime. Those are short-term rentals. Those are rentals that, I'm sorry, but it doesn't protect the existing supply of affordable housing. Affordable housing, in my view, is long-term rentals, year-round rentals. In my view, that's my view. You can interpret it any way you like. And I'm going to go point for point, and then you can.
Okay.
The other piece of this is goal H2 under the comprehensive plan. Promote a balance of housing choices for all income levels and age groups. This is not anything like that. This is a short-term rental. This is not promoting rentals for all income levels and age groups. It may be for people who want to come in and do short-term rentals, but that's not what the comprehensive plan's talking about. It's not. Increase the town's supply of workforce housing. Look, that doesn't fit here. This is not workforce housing. Unless Mrs. Amarat is going to commit to renting this year-round, 12 months a year, that doesn't fit. It's not workforce housing. Nobody's going to convince me that it is. Reduced housing costs while promoting more sustainable development. Again, this is just not what, it's not what it is. This is a resort type of a development here, resort, a 2-family home. This, please. I'm really stretching this, and then appropriately cite affordable housing. Again, affordable housing, as the town's looking at it right now, is affordable workforce housing, long-term rentals, year-round. People who come into this community year-round, live here, educate their kids here, support our businesses year-round. That's what the comprehensive plan's talking about. It's not talking about this. This is not what it's about. In my humble opinion. I may have people up here who disagree with me. But it doesn't fit.
Can I, okay, I didn't want to stop you
That's
before.
fine. No, I was on a
Okay.
roll.
The problem that we have with short-term rentals is that they are taking a lot of affordable housing away, period. But the problem that we have is, because we're stuck with it, quite frankly, from an affordable housing standpoint, from a workforce housing standpoint, every time you add a unit that is going to be used as a short-term rental, you free up a rental, you free up another apartment.
It's not happening.
The only way you can address it, they are trying throughout the country to add dwelling units in exactly the same situation because they're having it. We really need to have just more of a supply to allow there to be more housing units. I couldn't agree more. There is not, the vast majority of the short-term rentals that we inspected were in this neighborhood. But we were surprised to find how many people all the way over by Stop and Shop were doing short-term rentals. And the truth of the matter is that people coming in would rather be by the beach, so that it would allow the opportunity for a property over by Stop and Shop to be freed.
That's speculative.
Right?
That's purely speculative. That's not based in fact.
Well,
I want you to show me that. Show me the data that supports that. This doesn't fit the comprehensive plan as you cited here. I just read them off point by point. It does not fit.
I really believe what I said to be accurate. I think that one of the problems that we have is that the whole short-term rental thing is taking away affordable housing. And if we can put it where people are going to take it, then you're going to free up properties
You know,
across town.
look, with all due respect, and I do respect your opinion, I told you, I agree with a lot of what you said here.
Right.
But you could bring in an opposing expert who's going to come in and say, you know, it's purely speculative. They could go either way. I don't see the data. I like to see data. I want someone to show me what you're saying about somebody wanting to be, look, of course you want to be close to the beach. There's no doubt about it. But the fact of the matter is there are people renting houses all over this town, and they're getting a lot of money for it, and then they advertise them as being close to the beach. Well, listen, you're on an island. You're not too far from the beach no matter where you go. So you could make that argument all day long, and I'm not buying it. And I'm telling you, this board has been charged with following the comprehensive plan. And that's part of what we have to take, and I think I take it more seriously, you know, every time I sit up here. And I can't support this the way it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit.
I honestly, I truly appreciate what you're saying, but I honestly believe, having witnessed what goes on in both purchasing and renting, that if these units are added, you're going to free another property. It's that simple. I mean, it really, you know, it is the approach that is being done across the country to add dwelling units. And that is the reason, is because the more dwelling units you add,
It's not
the wider
working
the
on, it's not
variety.
working on this island, I can tell you that right now. not
You
working
know,
in Middletown.
there is a need for somebody to address housing on the island. But I believe honestly that one of the things that's been done across the country and is accepted is adding more dwelling units. I would really like to have more dwelling units in town. I mean, overall, we need them. And I know the city is working to do that. I know they have a project going. But even with that project, we're going to be woefully short of what we need. You know, we have such a limited area, a land area. We're hemmed in by ocean. We're hemmed in by other towns.
We're running out of land, we're running out of space.
We're running out of land.
We're running
We
out of
need to
land.
use what we have.
I agree.
That's the way I look at it.
Okay. Will the granting of the special use permit cause hazardous conditions or conditions detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare?
No.
And you've also suggested that you address the requirements for the granting of a variance. Is the hardship from which the applicant suffered due to the unique characteristics of the land, building, or structures, and not the general characteristics of the surrounding area?
Yes, I mean, it's clear that you have a pre-existing lot that was there long before the Amarants came along, that is substandard, both in terms of the width, the frontage, and the size of the lot itself.
Is the hardship the result of any prior action on the part of the applicants?
No.
And will the granting of the variance alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purposes of the zoning ordinance or comp plan?
No, I don't believe it. I think it will very much fit in, and I don't think it will have any detrimental impact at all.
And is a relief requested, at least relief necessary?
It is, I really believe that it is the least relief that is being requested in light of all the factors that are involved here, that they're not asking for any dimensional relief other than the front setback, and the size of the lot, which is pre-existing. And so I just think that it is a minimum relief.
And if the variances are not granted, will the hardship suffered by the petitioners amount to more than a mere inconvenience?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. Now, this diagram right here, the center of it is 14. That's the lot we're talking about, is that correct? Okay. What
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, it's-
what is on 15?
I don't believe there is a 15.
Oh,
There was a,
There's a 15 here, so,
well, I think the problem we had this, and we had it, Mr. Costa, is at some point in the past, the lot, there was, used to be a lot 15, and it became lot 14.
wait a minute. Now you really confused me when you said.
Well, it
Let me
is-
just show you this diagram, just so you look at
No,
it. That's
I
all.
understand what you're saying.
All I want you is to explain this right here, so I can understand. This is lot 14 that I can see, all right? And this is lot 15. Are these two lots one lot?
Yes, and it became 15. So on the corner is the Seabreeze Inn, and then these lots merged and became 14.
Okay, so 14 and 15 is one lot.
Yes,
Okay. Now, what's on 16?
It's a two-family.
Okay, all right. What's on 49?
Which is 49.
The one behind 16?
That's a single family.
That's, okay. All right, what's on 50? That's behind 14.
Did you say 50?
50, 50, yes.
That is 3 units in 2 buildings.
3 units?
3
Okay.
units in
Okay.
2 buildings.
Okay. And what's in lot 51?
I believe that's a single family.
Okay. And what
Sure.
is in lot 53?
I'm not sure about that. What's directly in back of the inn? That's her house.
53 is your house? Lot 53 is your house? Can you come up and look at it just to make sure? I want to get this straight, that's all. I'm confused because I want to know what kind of an impact this will make on the neighborhood. And that's the only way I'm going to know, is to know what's there. Right here, that 53.
This is the Seabreeze Inn, lot 53, is 26 Newport Avenue, my house.
That's your house, and
Yeah.
what's right here?
This is Mrs. Alvarez. They've been there forever. They
It's a
live there.
single-family house?
It's a single-family house.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this is me.
Okay,
That's me, and these are me. This is, yes.
okay, so, and this right here is a three-family
That's the
house?
three-family house.
Okay. Okay, so that 14 and 15 are combined into one lot. So it's actually bigger than most lots in the area. Okay, I wasn't, that's what I wanted to see. It looked like this was the tiniest lot in the area, and you were
Yeah,
stuffing,
no.
and you were stuffing this two-family onto it, and I'm just saying, this is
No,
what it looked like. And I want to be clear about what I'm voting on.
In fact, look, in my report, I have this green thing. And that shaded area are 10 lots, including the subject, okay? And of those 10 lots, there's only one lot that is currently conforming both by size and by use. Okay?
Right, but what wasn't clear in your report is that the lots that are
On the other side.
other side, and now that you've made that clear, it gets to the Vice President's question here, that he's looking to know that by putting a multifamily in the location that we are, that it's not out of use with the current, we know the one beside it to the north is a
Is a two-
multifamily.
right.
Now we know there's one directly behind it that's a multifamily also.
Yeah.
That we didn't know based on
Yeah,
what's on
it's
the paper.
actually, it's 3 units and it's in 2 buildings. There's a 2-unit building and a single family
Okay.
on the lot.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't do
That's
that.
why
I don't know
I
why I
wanted-
didn't do it
I
at the
wanted to know,
time.
it's okay, I just wanted
Yeah.
to know that, because that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
very important. I mean, you're talking about now, across the street, well, that's not as important as all the way around it.
Yeah, directly and back. Yeah.
Right.
No, you're absolutely right. And And actually, by size, this is probably, Lisa said that it was the second biggest. I think it might be the third. There's only a couple that are really
Third biggest, what, lot?
lot, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that are not with two families or anything else, because you have, yeah, when you combine them, this is about 8,000 square feet. Most of them are actually not that size.
Okay, that should have been brought up in the very beginning, because that makes a whole different ballgame, to me.
I thought, okay.
Well, doesn't it?
No, it does, I understand. I didn't know they still had the old tax assessors plat that
Plat,
showed the 14 and 15, when there isn't a 15 anymore.
Okay, but that's not what it looked like to me. It didn't.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's why I was getting nervous about all these bedrooms, because if you were stuffing it on this tiny, tiny sliver. Now, I have one more question. When you rent this out as short-term rentals, do you rent it to one person, or do you rent it to four people or five people? In other words, if there's a four-bedroom, this is for you. If you have a four-bedroom, do you rent it to four different people, or do you?
No, I normally do families from my other houses, and that's what I prefer. You have to understand, I have the Seabreeze Inn right next door. I will be the first one that does not want a party house next to the inn, which is an upscale boutique hotel. Very quiet, and that's the way I want to keep it. I will be the first one that will not want a party house next to the inn. I have two houses that I rent out. I would love to do a long-term rental. I never said that I will not do a long-term rental. Whatever I can, as a landlord, it's whatever I can get, as you know.
Right, you
If I can
can't
do,
get
I
for
cannot.
a long-term rental what you can get for a short-term. There's no question about that. And I'm not gonna-
Actually, now you can. And a new house with, in a new house you can. The rentals are pretty high. So, and I've done that. I've done it with my other properties. It's not strictly short and long and 9 months. I've done all year. I've done 3 years on 26 Newport Avenue to a Navy family. So like I said, if I can do that, I will do that. It's not 100% 9 months and 3 months. We do have a lot of college students. We have a lot of Navy that I rent to, and they're here only for 6 months, 7 months. So I rent it to them too.
Right.
It's not, I don't do strictly summer and winter. Like I said, I'm in real estate, so, and I keep it very clean and very quiet because it's next door to the Seabreeze Inn, and because I'm there. I'm not an away landlord that I don't see what's going on, or I will be the first one to walk over and say, keep it quiet, because I'm there.
And I understand that.
Thank
I fully agree with you on that right there. If you're right here, you're not gonna let a huge party go on next door. because
Absolutely not.
You don't wanna disturb your guests. I agree with you on that right there.
It's a very nice hotel, and I would like to keep it that way.
Samara, you currently are registered for, all your units are registered for the
Yes.
town for
Yes.
short-term rentals.
Yes.
Would you, if you were to be approved of this, would you agree to subject those approvals on not advertising to be part of the inn?
They're not part of the inn. I don't advertise them as part
Okay,
of
but some of the neighborhood is concerned that it's gonna be part of the inn.
Yeah, I understand.
Just let me finish, okay?
We name our properties, yes.
So the
Yes.
question is, would you subject your approvals to have short-term rentals to not tying it to the inn? And if you were to be tied to the inn, you would lose the ability to have that.
Yes, I would. And let me explain. My rentals are not tied to the inn because Airbnb and VRBO They never give my information out until they sign the agreement, because they don't want to lose their commission. So the only time they will call me directly to my office, it's after they sign the lease to rent. In other words, they don't rent them through the Seabreeze Inn. They can't. They don't have my information.
But they can call the Seabreeze Inn, and you
They-
can say, well, I got a 3-bedroom right next door.
When they call, I don't do long-term rentals at through the Seabreeze Inn.
No,
I
but
don't-
what I'm saying
I
is
don't
people-
advertise it.
yeah, but
Yes,
people
that's
can
correct.
call the inn, and
That's-
you can
that's
say, well,
correct.
I've got a
I do not-
5-bedroom next
yes.
door, I got 8
I
bedrooms
agree.
next door.
Yeah, I agree to that. I will
Yes.
not, I don't, and I will not advertise short-term rentals through the Seabreeze Inn.
Okay.
Or apartments or houses.
Yeah, you're not gonna use the property next door as an adjacent property for the Seabreeze Inn.
Correct.
Correct?
That is correct.
That could be a condition.
Yeah.
Because the Seabreeze does operate as a hotel, so it could be rented one night, whereas
The fear is this just becomes a big portion of the hotel, right? I mean, that's part of the neighborhood fear, is that you just add 8 more bedrooms onto your hotel
It-
that you already have. You testified that the parking lots were going to be separate, but they don't appear to be on the plan. It looks,
They
on the
are.
plan, they don't appear separate.
that, well, there's revised plans, there should be revised plans that show that when it originally was filed, it was taken out. There was a original plan that was first filed, and then new plans were submitted, and they were re-advertised, so.
So there's a little strip of concrete, though, right? Is that what we're getting at?
Yeah, we could say there's no pass-through the Seabreeze Inn.
Yeah,
If
I mean-
that needs to be a condition, that's fine,
If
too.
I may.
Yeah.
Right now, there is small wall built between the two properties. So there's no way for the cars to go over that. It's cemented and it's there and it's going to stay there. So there's no connection to one parking lot to the other.
And also, too, the elevation is a little bit different there
Exactly.
between
The
the two
elevation is a
lots.
little bit different also. Yes.
Is there a way to, question, is there a way to tie their permitting, their VRBO or their Airbnb permitting to this? You follow what I'm saying? Like, if they break the rules of what they say they're gonna do, then they don't get a permit.
I don't
Or
know
their-
how
or
you're
their-
gonna
their permit
enforce
is
that,
is
you know,
revoked.
10 years from now, how to enforce that?
I don't know, that's what I'm
What do I have, you know? If I see somebody walking from the hotel to the house, I don't know how I can enforce that.
Well, the only thing you want to be careful, there is a cafe there. And if someone was staying in the other, so I want to be a little careful of that. But I have no problem with a condition that says it will not be used, the property will not be used as a adjunct, or whatever word you want it, we can use, property for the Seabreeze Inn, or an overflow property for the Seabreeze Inn. It'll stand at its own, as its own rental property.
I had a question for Mr. Herkenroder. Hi, Dan.
Yes, hi.
So you testified that as a single-family residence, you could have designed this with 10 bedrooms,
Yes.
as of right. You designed the two-family with 8 bedrooms. Can you tell me, why did you do 8 and not 10?
Because we didn't have the space, because our building gets smaller as it goes up, because we wanted to try to make the building not look like a big, huge rectangle. So we actually have, it steps in, so we don't have as much square footage. We are 600 square feet less than we would be for the 10-bedroom option, and a bedroom's about 150 square feet. So it actually could fit more, but 10 seemed like crazy high already.
So what you were doing was maximizing the number of bedrooms you could put into this two-family? building?
The single-family building was a larger volume, so it had more square footage, therefore it could fit more bedrooms. We've pared this one down to be not the maximum size, so we don't have as much space to fit that many bedrooms.
Given the size of the lot, the small size of the lot, and the inability to conform it completely within the setback requirements, was there any consideration of building a less dense building, say a 5-bedroom or a 6-bedroom?
We always looked at the 3-story building because it was allowed for the height. So once you took the setbacks and took a 3-story building up, we kind of worked with the look of it, and once we were happy with that, we kind of figured out what we had left for the size. I think if you asked if we want to put like a 1-story building in, it wouldn't be. We just keep the building. We would just keep the building that was there at that point.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Also, another reason why there are less bedrooms in this structure than a single-family structure is because the third story, requires a kitchen, right? The
That's
apartment
correct. Yeah, we have 2 kitchens instead of having 1 kitchen and then all bedrooms. And then
I thought I understood you to say that earlier. That's why I brought that up.
that's correct. Yeah, and one other thing I didn't mention is the new Atlantic Beach District Design Manual. One of the first lines they have in there, which we were in that district, they say the emphasis of the Atlantic Beach Design Manual is to become a more pedestrian-oriented, attractive, and vibrant mixed-use village to serve the influx of seasonal visitors. So Middletown actually wrote that into this district to serve the influx of seasonal visitors. So I didn't bring that up earlier, but I thought that mattered now to bring that up.
And where's that, in the comprehensive plan, is that?
Yes, that's the new Atlantic Beach District Design Manual, and that's like the first paragraph in there. It says that that's their point to do for this portion of Middletown.
Do you have that in front of you? Can I see it?
I just have it written here, but
This is part of the comprehensive plan, or this is the design manual?
that's the design manual.
It's not part of the comprehensive plan. It's part of the design manual for the Atlantic Beach District, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, because he asked you if it was part of the comprehensive plan, it's not.
If it's part of the zoning code, it has to be in compliance with the comp plan. So all zoning ordinances have to be in compliance with the comp plan.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Okay, sorry I interrupted you. I just had to get that, I had to figure that out before we did.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I wanted to clarify one thing. I said it was the 3rd, but it's actually the 5th largest lot of those 10, but one of them has the inn, and one of the other one has a 6-family. It has a series of buildings with 6 units. So when I said 3rd, I was thinking only of the non-sort of commercial uses.
Okay.
I have nothing further with Mr. Hool.
Good evening, Mr. Hool.
Hi.
Just for the record, you stated that your company engaged in inspections for the town of Middletown regarding short-term rentals,
Yes,
and you were paid for that work on behalf of the town of Middletown.
we were.
And now you're here advocating or promoting the use of a 2-family residence for a short-term rental on behalf of a private citizen in Middletown.
I'm not saying that I'm promoting it. I'm accepting her statement, the owner's statement, that it would be used as a short-term rental.
And your statements were that it wasn't that bad.
I'm sorry. Repeat that?
In your testimony to the board, just for the record, is that per your investigation or your inspections of the town, that you found that 2 families weren't as bad as single families, right?
That is correct.
And now you're here promoting to the board on behalf of your clients that the 2-family structure will not be as bad. as a single family.
From the short-term rental standpoint, yes.
And you're being paid for your time here.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, just to clarify, in this area, the Seabreeze sort of ends that limited business district on the one side
Right.
there. And the rest of it is surrounded by residential homes.
That's correct.
And most of those homes are long-term residents.
They could be, but I will tell you that as they turn over, my experience is that most of them will probably be acquired by people who will be planning to do short-term rentals.
But you don't know that, and that's not the case at this point.
Well, I know that by experience, and I don't know that, I don't know what is the use of the buildings are, whether they're owner occupied or rental.
Okay. And I just want to state for the record, I did not receive a copy of Mr. Hull's report. I did ask for a copy of the record, so I just don't have that, so.
I only have my copy. I'd be happy to, but I've sort of written all over my copy.
I don't have any further questions. I would just like to take a look at it, if that's,
Okay.
thank you.
I have no further witnesses.
Okay. Should we take a 5-minute break so you can look over that report? Would that be good? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break, or 10-minute break. 10-minute break and we'll come back. Meeting will now come back to order. Okay.
If I may make some brief statements or presentation, and then I will call a witness.
Okay, just speak into the microphone, okay, please. Thank you.
I will.
It's just hard to hear, that's all.
Is this better? Can you hear better with this one? There you
Much
go.
better, thank you.
So once again, my name is Allison Quay, and I'm here on behalf of abutters Renee Bissell and Michael Kastner. They are owners of the properties at 14 Seascape and 10 Seascape Avenue. They're direct abutters.
Okay, can you give me the lot numbers so I can look on the,
Yes, I believe that Mr. Kastner owns lot 50, and if you'll bear with me on Ms. Bissell, I believe it's 49.
okay. And those are two-family houses also?
Mr. Kastner's is a two-family house or property, and Ms. Bissell's is not.
It's three-family? The one's a
It's
three-family, right?
two-structure, three-family.
I will have him come up and testify to that. in
I'm
a
just
few
asking,
moments.
just so,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, go ahead. I'm not gonna interrupt you.
So just some housekeeping notes. Mr. Kastner and Ms. Bissell did submit a letter to the board dated September 28th, 2021, so I believe that's part of the record already. I did receive letters from other neighbors that I do not represent, and I do not have copies of, but I do have single copies. I don't have multiple copies of. But they are abutters Joe Perillo, at 53 Newport Ave, Joe DeGregas, I'm not pronouncing that right, at 67 Newport Ave, Christina Legion at 12 Seascape, Corinna Holleran, who's here at 14 Seascape, Elizabeth Bergman at 193 Aquidneck, and Catherine Wheeler Brown at 20 Seascape. I do have these letters. I think all of these abutters would like them part of the record. But again, I do not represent them. They just brought the letters. And I can present them through Ms. Bissell if you prefer.
I mean, I understand that these letters are submitted for zoning petitions all the time, they're in the record. However, we usually get a chance to review them and read them beforehand and prepare your case and address any concerns that they bring up because they're not present. It's all hearsay. So, I mean, I don't want to be, make a big deal out of it, but I think you should just give it the weight that it deserves, knowing that they're not here. They're not here to press their objection, and it is hearsay.
Okay,
I would just ask that the board consider keeping them as part of the record, putting whatever weight or no weight on them as you may. Abutters do submit letters all the time without appearing before the board and without swearing before the board, so you can put as much weight on them as you would like to, or not.
okay.
If I may just.
Correspondence.
So, I'm not going to go through the whole, you've already heard everything. We're here for a variance and a special use permit. As this board knows, in order, when you're considering a request for a variance, I'm going to start there, the board has to consider the hardship to the petitioner. And here, there's no particular hardship that's been presented. What's been presented is that this petitioner wants to build a two-family home to rent out for commercial gain. They're not intending to live there. They're not intending to live there and rent one of the units for short-term rentals. They purely are building this home for short-term rentals. That is their goal. I know Ms. Amarant has stated that she would consider long-term rentals. She is not committed to that at this point. And her testimony very clearly shows what her intent is. Ms. Amaranth has also testified that this home will be fully furnished, therefore not conducive to a family that's moving in with their own family, tied to the community, working in the community, having children in the community. This home doesn't really have space for a yard. It's not designed for children to play in the yard. It's designed for transient people to come in and out and rent on vacation. It's designed for large parties. There's a 3-bedroom unit and a 5-bedroom unit. Now we know when people do short-term rentals, it's not one person per bedroom. When you're renting on vacation, you have a bunch of people that go in, multiple families, staying in an apartment for a weekend. Same with the college students, multiple times, that often double up, so there'll be many, the potential here is that there are many more people in this home than there would be if it were long-term rentals with family members renting them. It is essentially an extension of the Seabreeze Inn, and we know that because Ms. Amaranth has testified that she has other short-term rentals. Now, she does not advertise it on the Seabreeze website, but she does on our on the Airbnb and VRBO. She calls it the Seabreeze Cottage. She gives the phone number and identifies the Seabreeze Inn as the point of contact for those rentals. She will do the same here, thereby extending her business right next door to allow transient short-term rentals. Now, Ms. Amaranth's architect has testified that the building is designed to go up and maximize the amount of space. Surely they could have made it more boxy and gotten more space, but they wanted to make it look nice. But they ultimately designed the building to get as many bedrooms as possible and 2 units. In that case, there is no hardship. They could get rid of one of the bedrooms, maybe 2 of them, and bring the footprint in a little bit and perhaps comply with those, the front yard variance request. The ordinance and the statute for a variance requires that the board find that the applicants cannot yield any beneficial use if required to conform. I don't think that's met here. I think they can be required to conform to the front yard variance and still yield beneficial use out of this property. The board also needs to take into account the effect on the surrounding neighborhood. Now, the comp plan does talk about this, right? It talks about being sensitive to the impacts of commercialization into residential neighborhoods. And the Seabreeze Inn itself is at the end of that limited business district, and it's surrounded by residential neighborhoods. Now, granted, they are asking for a special use permit for a residential 2-family property, but the use will not be your typical residential 2-family property. Ms. Amaranth has testified to that. It's on the record. The use will be for a commercial property. They will earn income from this property. It's an income property for them. It's a business for them. It is not their personal home. When you have an extension of this inn, and you have a short-term rental with multiple people, multiple families staying only 3 nights a week, you have multiple people coming in and out with different schedules. They're not tied to work. They're on vacation. They're not tied to the normal business hours. They're having fun. that sort of activity or behavior is not really compatible with a residential neighborhood. And that is why we use zoning to try and separate motels and hotels and inns from residents. That's why we try to separate properties that have commercial properties or being used in a commercial way from residents. And here, it's sort of ironic because they are taking a commercial non-conforming use building, but what they're asking for is for a use of a property that's going to have much more impact on those neighbors than what's there now, because people will have different timelines, they will be out later, they will be multiple people there more often at different times of the day and night. I just want to make a point that the Seabreeze Cottage, one of the other rentals, it's rented at $850 a night. This one will be rented probably the same or more. That sort of income is hard to walk away from, and I don't see a petitioner, even though it's been suggested that they're open to long-term rentals. You can make $850 a night, you're going to do it. And without any sort of restriction on that, of course they're going to do that. But that $850 a night is not, they're not being rented to people who are working families, as this board has pointed out, in the community. It's not being geared towards people who are working and having children. It's unaffordable. Just point out that the in the comp plan and the land use, section 9.3 talks about preserving established neighborhoods. In 9.10, it talks about controlling the impacts of commercial development, and I think the board can consider that here, and they can consider that in the terms of the special use permit, because this board has the ability to place certain restrictions on a special use permit. And that's one of their requests here, is for the two-family special use permit. Ms. Bissell and Mr. Kastner are objecting to the variance and objecting to the special use permit. However, should this board decide to grant a special use permit, they are requesting that the board consider placing restrictions on that permit. And part of those have already been discussed by this board by separating the inn from this unit, from the short-term rental unit. And that means not advertising it with the inn and not promoting it through the inn. They would also ask that a condition be placed on the number of short-term rentals per year, and perhaps a limit on, or a minimum stay per short-term rental. So maybe perhaps instead of a 3-day stay, be 1 week. So it lessens the amount of people coming and going so frequently. One of the other things that's already been agreed to that they would ask if you're inclined to grant is that the lighting at the rear of the house face down and not shine into the neighborhood. They would like you to consider including that as a requirement, as well as the arborvitaes, tall ones, to block out the neighborhood. And it has been stated here that the decks and the entrances are not facing the Seabreeze side, and they would ask, if you're so inclined to grant, that that be made part of the requirements of a special use permit.
Would you please repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So as part of the plan now, there are no decks or entrances facing the Bissell property.
The north and east.
It's the east side. No.
North and east, yeah.
Yes, east side. Not so good with that. But yes, we would ask that they not face that that area, or the residential area, that we continue to be in the front or towards the sea breeze end as part of the requirement, if you're so inclined. I think that's all I have to say right now, but I would like to have Mr. Kastner come up and perhaps be sworn in at this time.
Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony before this board is the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. My name
Your
is
name and address, please.
Attorney Michael Kastner. I have owned 1012 Seascape, Block 50, for about 35 years. Contrary to some of the testimony here, I don't do short-term rentals. It's a house and a two-family. The house is rented by a senior. The two-family on the bottom is a middle-aged woman, and above her is a family. And it has always been that way. And we do that because Seascape Avenue in that area is a family neighborhood. It's not a hotel neighborhood, it's a family neighborhood. Some years ago, the Emirates, which are fine people, better business people, and they have great taste. They build pretty buildings. Well, they bought the single-family house at 8 Seascape next to mine.
Could you speak up?
Used to be
into the mic?
family would live there. And because they now do short-term rentals, I never see a family there. I see college students, I see summer people. They took the front yard and paved it so they could park cars all along the front of the house. So when the college students are there, you'll see 5 cars parked all along the front. That's not what that neighborhood's about, but that's what they've done. Kitty corner is the Sea Breeze Inn. And now behind my property is going to be this next property. So I'm going to be surrounded by short-term rentals. And there was one witness that talked about this property being a transitional property. Well, it's transitioning all the way down Quinnipiac Avenue. Because if I'm surrounded by short-term rentals, do I ultimately have to go the same way as everyone else? Because that's what everyone else is doing in that neighborhood. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it to my neighbor, Renee Bissell. I wouldn't do it to people across the street. My son's a real estate agent. He said we can make many times what we make each month in short-term rentals. But what am I doing to that neighborhood by doing that? If this was a petition for a two-family, we had discussion earlier about families, housing for families, I'd have no problem with that. I've got no problem with couples or kids moving into a two-family. That'd be great. It's just this extension of short-term housing all around that corner. So if that's the plan, if that's the purpose of the board, if that's what the vision is for that area of Quinnipiac Avenue and Newport Avenue, Seascape, so be it. And maybe we all jump in and we all have nothing but short-term rentals. So we're asking the board put a stop to this, not to their building. They'll build a beautiful building there, and what's there now is terrible. It's an ugly aluminum-sided building. So I'm excited what they're going to do with that building. I just don't want another short-term rental. And I don't want it behind the property that I rent to a senior and a couple with children and a middle-aged woman.
Would you agree, though, whether this is a single-family house or a two-family, it's going to be a short-term rental?
I'm sorry, it would...
Would you agree that whether they build a single-family house there or a two-unit, it's going to be a short-term rental?
Well, it obviously that's what they're building. I mean, they own the Sea Breeze Inn. They're not building it to live there. They're not building it. Sometimes people build two families to rent out like we do, long-term, right? I presume so.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I even have the right to object to this. You know, and maybe they're
getting at.
within their rights to say they can build a building and do whatever they want to with that. But to the gentleman on the right, you're concerned before about what the comprehensive plan is all about and what we're trying to accomplish here. That's not what this is. This is another part of a hotel. They may not link it to the Sea Breeze Inn. They may describe it differently. $850 a night for a house is not housing for families. And that's my only point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to confirm, I don't know if you put your address on the record.
I own 1012 Seascape.
No, yeah, but we...
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't live there.
I don't live there. Yeah, my address is 115 Cedar Hill Drive in Jamestown, Rhode Island.
The only other thing, Mr. Kastner, are you sure it was the Emirates who
there before they bought the property. It used to be a single family with a family with kids and a front yard.
I'm talking about paving it.
Yes, it was grass. It was grass up there.
Ms. Renee Bissell would like to speak to the board as well.
Raise your right hand. Swear the testimony before the board is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Renee Bissell, 14 Seascape Avenue, Middletown, Rhode Island.
Okay.
I have a couple questions, and one of my first questions, it's odd, but where is the waste management, and how is that being handled? I know 8 Seascape doesn't put bins out, nor does 26 put bins out. I have observed and taken photographs of waste management bins, the large ones that you would find, that I think they're all linked. It appears that they're all linked. So I question, where is the waste management receptacles at 163 Aquidneck? I don't know if they're going to be linked once again. And that was a kind of a cornerstone of my thinking. Are they connected? And I do have to say to the comprehensive plan that our community is on the edge. And we live in a very high-density, populated, wonderful place to live. That's why we're here. But it's fragile. The community is fragile. Our neighborhood has retirees, people who have lived there for 70 years, my neighbor, Mrs. Brown, and her family's actually been in Middletown for 400 years. And we're on that edge where we need to protect us. We need some protection as well. We're not anti-development. It has been a good thing for our town, but we also need to protect us. The teachers, I was a teacher in this town for 25 years. Mrs. Brown was a teacher in this town for over 40 years. We give. So it's not like we're asking, don't, whatever. We're looking for our rights to be protected in the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Karina Halloran, 14 Seascape Avenue, Middletown, Rhode
Can you
Island.
raise your right hand, swear the testimony before the board is the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Correct.
Okay.
I just
Will you
wanted
state
to-
your name and address again for the record after you.
Karina Halloran, 14 Seascape Avenue, Middletown, Rhode Island. I just wanted to support Mr. Lombardi's argument earlier that I cannot afford to live in Middletown. I cannot afford to live on the island. I moved back during COVID from living overseas for work. I lost my job, so I had to start over here. I have an income of about 70 grand a year. I'm a freelancer, but even then I cannot afford rent. So I have to live with my mom. So I just wanted to support what you've said earlier, is that there is no rent. There's no places to live here. Thank you.
I don't have anyone else to speak. Thank you.
I just wanted to make some closing remarks and rebuttal also to the objector's case. We heard a lot about they don't intend to live there. The Amarants do not intend to live there. Well, that is the case. That's what they said. But they do own property down there. They own 2 businesses down there. They own actually 3 businesses if the subject property is a business. It's a retail business down there right now. They own 2 homes there, so they're not some fly-by-nights who just bought a house and intend to do short-term rentals. They, as I suggested, they are invested in this community, and they they have been for some time. Now, we keep hearing that all they're going to do is short-term rentals. Well, I guess short-term rental is used a lot of times in a generic sense. I know, at least in Newport, it means these rentals for 30 days or less. A 9-month rental is not a short-term rental. I mean, it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose to provide housing for students, for not only at Salve, but the Navy, the War College, and so forth. So it's not just $850 a night the whole year round. What you have here is, if you count them, the 3 months, and the season is, you're talking about June, July, and August, right? So short-term rentals, I'm sure, go on, for the most part, later than that. There are a lot of people visiting in this area outside of those months. They include May, September. We have the beautiful Indian summer here in southern New England, October, and those months. They're not doing, her plans are not doing short-term rentals. She's going to rentals with students at that time. So in terms of the size, we do comply with two of the biggest factors that point to the size of a building if it's too big. That is the height and also lot coverage. We are compliant. Then throw in the side yard setbacks. We are compliant. They mention hardships. Our hardship is basically because the town has stipulated that there needs to be 15,000 square feet for a two-family. We have an existing lot, as I suggested from the beginning, that's been in existence for 100 years or more. In terms of hardships, I just want to point out how many times, I would say 95% of the cases that come before this board, the applicants are asking to make their property less compliant with the zoning code. In other words, they're asking for relief that would make them less compliant, especially with a new build. In this particular case, we are making significant changes to an existing unattractive building that we're making it compliant with lot coverage, we're making it compliant with the side yard setbacks, we're making it compliant with the use, and so forth. So to, the hardship that we have, we still need relief even though we're doing all of that. So the other thing about the extension of the Seabreeze Inn, we're willing to put the condition on. I'm sorry if they're under that impression, but my client has testified under oath, she is going to be there 7 days a week, that she is not using it as an extension of the inn. I'm sorry she uses the same phone number. She's old-fashioned. She uses a cell phone. If she's not, everything goes to a cell phone if she's not at the Seabreeze Inn office. It's just easier for her to do that, to handle it that way. Commercialization, there is a commercial building down there right now. It's a retail use. There's a commercial use here, and they're saying that this is going to be, they're calling this a commercial use when the Middletown zoning code, two of the basic residential uses that you have is a single and two-family residence. And to say that it's not a typical residential use, Mr. Kastner candidly pointed out that he doesn't live at his property. I know he's owned it for 30 years, but he's renting it out. So all day long, we have people renting out their properties, and they're not necessarily going to live there. So it does serve a purpose, and I would ask you to please, I think we've met the conditions. The expert testimony that's been presented has not been refuted, and we're asking you to grant the relief, and I thank you for your time.
Anybody have any more questions? No? All right. I guess we already had the public hearing because everybody got up and made their thing. So I'm gonna close the public hearing for the abutters, and we'll make our decision. Yes.
I'd like to make a couple, just ask a couple questions of Mr. Bean. On behalf of your client, I want to make sure we got this right because this is also something that the neighbors had asked for if this gets approved. So your client has agreed to use the special lighting for this building, correct?
Yes,
And that also includes the rear, which one of the neighbors brought up that would be a concern for them. So the, whatever the sky, whatever.
yeah, it's dark sky compliant lighting.
Okay. You've also agreed that you were going to increase the screening and landscaping to give more privacy between this building and the neighbors.
That's correct.
You also agreed that there'll be no balconies on the north and east side of this building.
Correct, and that's what the plans show.
Okay.
There was, the only point I bring out, I think they used the term entrances. There is an entrance on just a door and to access the building on the north side, but there's no balconies or anything along those lines.
Okay.
Obviously, we need two forms of ingress and egress from a building in any event.
And
Okay.
that's ground level? That,
Ground level.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that was on record because you have over time made these concessions based on the concerns from the neighbors.
And we will also, Mr. Curtin brought up the fact that we will not, and I'll try to use the language, we will not use the property as an overflow for rentals for the Seabreeze Inn. It will stand, the property will stand on its own in terms of rentals.
I don't want to speak for the vice president, but I'm sure he's going to tell us that that's going to be part of the stipulation before we vote. Thank you.
Mr. Bean, and part of the separating the businesses from the Seabreeze, I would, if I'm going to support this, and I still am on the fence at this point, I mean, significant stipulations I see, and I appreciate Mrs. Amarant agreeing to these things, but when she advertises her Airbnb and VRBO, I would ask that no mention of the Seabreeze be put in those ads.
Well, it's a basic question. So,
I don't advertise.
Well, so, go ahead. Go ahead.
My rentals have renamed them. I named the Seascape House Seascape, so they know they're close to the ocean. Seabreeze, I named Newport Avenue Seabreeze Cottage. There is a barn cottage, there is Ocean View Cottage, another rental property. There is rental properties in RBO and VRBO that we give them names. We cannot advertise the address. If you go on VRBO, you cannot find the house. If you go 26 Newport Avenue, you will not find the house because they do not allow it. They don't give you the address. So we name them. Our rental properties are given a name. And I gave it the name of Seabreeze Cottage. It has nothing to do with the Seabreeze. As I said before, I could have done the overflow from the Seabreeze Inn for the past 10 years, because I do, and I haven't. Why would I do this one?
I understand. I'm trying to get to the point that the attorney for the abutters showed, Mr. B, and I think you saw it, she showed a printout from Airbnb or VRBO that mentioned, you know, the phone number of the Seabreeze. I just want to be able to separate it completely. And I think that's, you know, I don't think that's too much to ask. Is there a way of doing
What
that?
they're asking is that in whatever advertising you do on Airbnb, VRBO, that you're not going to actually mention the sea breeze in property.
That is correct.
Okay, no, that's, yeah.
It's fine. That's what I'm asking.
And
That's
you,
what I'm
are you
asking.
willing are you willing to sacrifice the ability to get a permit to do short-term rentals if you do that? We, for you to do your business the way that you want to do it, you've got to have a short-term rental permit, right? You've got to apply with the town, you've got to get that permit, okay? What we're saying here is if you break the rules that you're agreeing to right now, that permit should be revoked.
Absolutely. I agree.
You
How do
make
we,
that part
how
of
do
the
we
decision?
include that?
You could include that as part of the decision?
Okay, the stipulation that I captured based on all our discussion thus far was that this property will not be advertised as an adjacent property to the Seabreeze Inn. This property is a standalone, separate rental property. That's the way I recorded our discussion. Is there something else we want to add to that?
I think there should be a way for their permit, their short-term rental permit. I think that there should be some language added to this that if these rules are broken, that their short-term rental permit is revoked.
Okay.
But you got to tie the two together.
Yep.
I mean, Chris, I think, while I stand on the issue about the comprehensive plan, and you did bring up a good point about, Mr. Herkenrother also brought up a good point about it, with the Atlantic Beach Master Plan and it being part of the zoning ordinance, and to a degree, it has to be compatible with the comprehensive plan, without sounding like I'm wishy-washy here. But I think the Amarants are good business people. I recognize that. I think what they've done with the Seabreeze, they've done a very nice job. They do have an anchor here in the community, and they always have, and I recognize that. I don't want anyone to think that it goes by me. We should have more good business people in this town like that. But I think these conditions, as far as I'm concerned, are a key for me to support this, and including the forfeiture of their ability to do short-term rentals, should they violate any of these conditions.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice President, just so there's no issue with the record, would you open the hearing to the public and then close it if no one wishes to speak? And also, when you're rendering your decision, state with regard to each factor, the board's opinion when you do meet your decision, just so that we preserve the record for appeal in a very...
So you want me to open it again for the,
Well, you never formally opened it, and I don't want there to be any issues on a potential appeal.
okay, so I will open it for public opinion, and then,
Public comment.
okay. I'll open the floor to the public hearing. Anybody like to speak in favor of or against the petition at this time?
Does this mean that what we said earlier is null and void?
No, no, no.
No.
No. No, it just means that I'm opening up so everybody has an opportunity. If there's something else they want to add to it, is that correct?
That's correct.
That they can add to it. That's what I'm opening up as. So if you had something that you just heard and you wanted to add to it, you still would have the opportunity to.
I mean, if I can just jump in really quick. I think it's important to note that every single one of their properties on Airbnb and VRBO is advertised for large parties, bachelorette parties, bachelor parties. As a neighbor to 8 Seascape, it's nothing but college boys throwing footballs and screaming after football games. As a neighbor during the summer, it's nothing but screaming girls coming to the house every day with the new bachelorette version.
May I? This is
We're
the
just gonna keep going
problem
on
now,
and
and I will answer. It's not my properties. They have two Airbnbs right in front of them, 169 and 177 Aquidneck Avenue. I'm very aware of them. The police department has come quite often in those two properties. They call, they complain. It's not my properties. Those are the two that they have, the owners of those two properties. As a matter of fact, 177, it was Mrs. Brown's nephew that ran Airbnb in that location. He sold it and he sold it to an out-of-town Bostonian that bought it, and he continued to do Airbnb at 177 Aquidneck Avenue. That's the party house. 169 is right next door to my dilapidated property that I just bought. He keeps it pretty quiet. I'm there 24/7. So I know where the party houses are. They're not mine. Please, you have to clarify that. My property, and I do not advertise bachelorette parties on my Airbnb. Families. I had a family with grandparents. I have children that stayed at Seascape, my big house. I had 3 sisters with their kids that stayed in my house. I did not have one party all summer long. I'm there. So it's 177 Aquidneck Avenue. Both houses next to mine, one is from Connecticut, the owner, and the other one's from Boston. Mrs. Brown's nephew sold it to the Bostonian. So just to make things clear. Thank you.
I would just like to point out to the board that, I'm sorry, your last name? Ms. Halloran has testified to facts that she has seen and experienced living in the neighborhood. So they come from a personal knowledge, in direct contradiction to Ms. Amarant, who is perhaps not seen directly or heard directly because she's not there, living there. So she doesn't have personal knowledge of those particular facts here.
She's down there 122 hours a week.
Mr. Vice President, if there's, the attorneys have already made their arguments.
Yeah.
The hearing has been open to the public. If there's no one else wishing to speak, you can close the public hearing and move on.
All right, thank you. I needed that advice. Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Okay. All right, is there any discussion from the board? I think we should discuss the regulations, so make sure that we have the right things. So when we make a motion, we include the regulations in it. I mean, the
Stipulation.
stipulation.
Yep. I'll make the motion to approve the special use permit with the following stipulation, that the property will not be advertised as an adjunct property to the Seabreeze Inn. This is a standalone property, a separate rental, and if these rules are broken, the owner's rental permits will be revoked. Short-term rental permits will be revoked.
I have a question. Mr. Solicitor,
Yes.
do we have to approve each stipulation individually, or can it be in the one motion?
It can be under one.
One motion.
And to clarify the stipulations, you're referring to the owner's permits with regards to,
Short-term rental. permit.
but just with, as regards to this property?
That's right, as it relates to this property.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that for everyone.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Does the
Oh,
motion
I
need
think we
to-
gotta get a second.
We got to
first.
get a second.
Got a second.
Does it need to, though, include all four? Including the downlighting, the decks not being on the north?
They've already agreed to that, I believe.
It's got to be in the motion.
No, it does.
They're all stipulations.
Yeah, I think we should put the lighting definitely in the
You
motion.
have to put them on the record.
So in addition to the stipulations as stated, the The Amarants also stipulate that they will provide the specialized lighting, the additional screening and landscaping, and they will have no balconies on the north and eastern exposure of the building.
So, Mr. Vice President, I second the motion.
Okay.
Subject to those various stipulations. What I would say about this is, first of all, I thank the abutters for their testimony, which I found to be very passionate and very articulate and well presented. But what this board is not empowered to do is to say that we can't have short-term rentals in Middletown. That's something for the town council to decide. We have to evaluate this application from the prism of the zoning ordinance and the rules for special use permits and variances. And when I look at those rules, starting with a special use permit, I was persuaded by the expert testimony of Mr. Herkenroder and Mr. Poole that there would not be a significant diminution in the property values in the surrounding area. In fact, it might be improved by virtue of eliminating a very unattractive building and putting in something that's much more attractive. I also accept Mr. Poole's concept for how it is compatible with the comprehensive plan. I don't believe it will create hazardous conditions. I don't believe it will be detrimental to surrounding property. I don't believe it will be a nuisance. So when we look at it from the perspective of special use permit requirements, I think the terms are met, which is, I wish the building weren't as massive as it were for such a small lot, but it is what it is, and I think it is compliant. So I support the special use permit application.
And Mr. Vice President, the motion, if a motion is to be made, it should be made with regards to the variance first and then the special use permit.
Okay. Put the conditions on the variance then?
You could put them on, both, or
Okay.
that's fine.
I would also say that it complies with the variance requirements. The hardship really is related to the very small lot size that the petitioner can't do anything about. And the relief that they're seeking has now been reduced to really just just one front lot setback. Everything else is compliant, except for the 15,000-foot requirement. Oh, that's the special use permit. Sorry. For the variance, I think those requirements are met as well.
So I'd make a motion for the variance, that we approve the variance with the stipulation, and I'll read them back in, will not be advertised as an adjunct property to the Seabreeze Inn. This is a standalone, separate rental property. And if these rules are broken with respect to the misuse of this rental property, their rental permits will be revoked. We further stipulated that there would be the special lighting, which I believe was the dark sky lighting, that there would be additional screening and landscaping placed around the new property for privacy, and that there will be no balconies on the north and eastern exposure of this structure. So that was the motion first.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? I think we've already had enough discussion on that. I believe I'm gonna vote for, to approve it because of the reasons that have been stated by my former colleagues, by my colleagues. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Granted 5-0. Now with a special use permit. I think we should put the conditions on that too, and then we'll have it on both.
I read that in first. Is that still good, or should I reread it?
Excuse me?
I already read that one in first, the special use.
You can just state that the special use, the motion for the special use is subject to the same stipulations
Okay.
as the variance.
So I recommend approval for the special use with the same stipulations as was stated for the variance, and that's the first. Steve, you second?
Second.
Steve, second, okay.
Motion made in second. And any discussion? I'm gonna vote for it for the same reasons that have been stated in the past.
I
All
also,
in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Granted 5-0.
Thank you.
Yep.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.